So, oh man, I gotta get my mind right.
Go.
Recurring blooper, though.
It is. How many of these are gonna? You're gonna get like 50 of them. Welcome to another episode of, I wanted to say optimizers, but it's not. Co-founders. This is Alex Mont-Roses, and we have
Lisa Mont-Roses.
So today we're going to talk about staying grounded, right, in the business as well as the family or the home front. And what I want the audience and you and I to kind of, chat about is some things, some tactics we've implemented to help the business stay grounded, development of culture, as well as, taking those same best practices and leveraging them at home. I think so many times people are being trained up on all sorts of things in their professional career, and there's so many things that can translate back to the family, and sometimes they get overlooked. They're like, why have I not implemented this at home, because it's also applicable at home. And a couple things we'll touch on today is some, you can call it whatever you want, circle of gratitude or circle of thankfulness, whatever you want to call it. That's one. And then also like a check-in, right? A personal, extracurricular check-in, personal, professional check-in, those type of things, right? So in this topic, or these topics that we're going to touch on, or tactics, we can make a whole episode on each one, but we're going to really kind of skim through them and why they're so important to really kind of dial them into your family life and also your business. But I want you to start off, because I know you really like the whole circle of thankfulness, gratitude, and all that. Talk to us about how do you implement that, and what is it all about, and what's the purpose of it? So
I think to back up a little bit so that we're all on the same page, it's really to start any sort of meeting, whether it be something where you have a group of people together, and it's almost an icebreaker in a sense amongst people that you usually know. Mm-hmm. Our team usually knows each other. Sometimes we have new people, but they get just folded right into the mix. And I think it creates an environment where people feel free to talk, both the circle of gratitude and the personal professional check-in. But like the circle of gratitude, I think you had mentioned it to me once. I was like, yeah, we'll give it a shot at our next team meeting. And it sounded a little woo-woo to me. Just
it
in
does.
It does sound a little woo-woo. But
what is woo-woo?
I don't know. Like
what is
woo-woo?
What's woo-woo?
I don't know. It just sounded a little fluffy for me. I'm not a big fan of like fluffy stuff. Okay. Like I like meaty.
I like
okay. Like something with substance. But so we did it at one of our team meetings, and it's basically whoever's leading the meeting usually starts, and they say, hey, today I'm going to give thanks to Alex because he helped me with a project I was really working on, and had it not been for him, I wouldn't have been able to accomplish it. Something to that effect.
Got it. Okay.
Then Alex would choose somebody else in the room and thank them for something, and then it just trickles down the line, and everybody eventually gets thanked and thanks somebody. But what it does really, it forces you to leave behind whatever's happening. Whether you're worried about your emails building up, or if something happened that morning that you're concerned about, it allows you to be present at the meeting, but it also sets the tone it's a very positive tone. And how do you not, even if it's forced, and I think that was where, when you first mentioned it to me, I'm like, you can't force people to thank other people. But when you're sitting in a room, and I remember the first time I did it, I was like, gosh, who do I pick? I actually have like immense gratitude for every person in this room for various reasons. So it allows you to express it, because people aren't really great at expressing gratitude. I don't think. I think it's something that people don't do enough of. And it's amazing the power when you do. Mm-hmm. And so doing that at a team meeting or a family meeting, it sets the stage and the tone for the meeting. It
also, and I think this goes for both check-in and being, having the circle of gratitude, is that if there is going to be a tough meeting, right? That's, it's going to be a meeting where it's just going to be a tough meeting depending on results or whatever it is. It also sets the stage so that you can have that, it kind of lets everybody's guard down to be like, okay, we're coming from a place of, it's a tough word that we're going to talk about, or we're going to have a, tough conversation today. At the same time, it's going to be coming from a place of empathy and where everybody's guards are down. And hopefully those words become they're better received, right, versus taking it from a defensive position.
Well, it allows more for a conversation of
Conversation,
a hard
yeah.
topic instead of a lashing.
I agree. Yeah.
I think is
And so when we translated that to the family, what do you think that's been? When we have 5 kids, we sit everybody down. It's madness. We got 2 little ones that keep running up and down. The older ones are trying to entertain the little ones, and we're like going around the table. But what do you think what's the impact been on the family, on the kids?
it's been interesting when we've done it, I think, because I think a lot of times they don't want to admit that what we do they like. So they're sort of resistant sometimes just because we're the ones telling them to do it. So it doesn't matter what it is. We could tell them we're going to give them $1 million for doing something, and they're like, oh, but you said it. So I think I've seen a little bit of that from them in the sense of, oh, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it because you're forcing me. But it softens as the room goes around. Like the meeting, and we do family meetings. We try to do family meetings every week when we have all of the kids. But the room just sort of softens.
Yeah.
Because it becomes less, even if it's chaotic, even if Winston is trying to make all of us laugh and Lillian's telling stories about something, it just softens the tone of everything.
Mm-hmm. And in the same sense, it also, you give permission, we give the kids permission to go deep if we're able to go deep with our gratitude. Because, when we first started implementing this stuff, it's like, I'm thankful for clothes, I'm thankful for food and the house. And and of course, you don't want to be like, well, dude, come on.
That's wrong. You're thankful for wrong.
You're wrong.
It's
Wrong.
wrong.
That's wrong. Try again. So we can't do that to them because it's, they got to get into an understanding that this one is going to be part of a regular cadence, right, for the family, and then give them the time to open up. And they have over time. They are more thoughtful for what they're actually thankful for, which is awesome. And I would say that for even in the business side too.
Right.
We've seen that flourish as well, and people are more intentional and thoughtful with what they're truly thankful for.
Well, I think it's important to mention that whoever starts it opens the door to how deep that thankfulness is.
Correct.
Like, is it a surface, oh, Alex, thanks for opening the door for me when we walked in the room? Because what will happen from there is that's the type of gratitude, which that's not bad gratitude. It's just surface gratitude, as opposed to, Alex, I was having a really tough day yesterday, and when you jumped in and said, hey, how can I help you? That changed the trajectory of my whole day.
Right.
That's a different tone. And whoever starts that circle of gratitude
sets the
stage for that.
So that's that. And I love that practice. I encourage everybody out there to implement it. And then we have the personal professional check-in, personal extracurricular check-in, which we kind of call that for our kids because they're not professionals per se. But share a little bit about how that works.
So the first person sets the stage with how surface or how deep it's going to be, but it's a personal check-in. Here's something going on in my personal life, and here's something going on in my professional life. And I think we usually start with professional and move to personal, because professional is typically very routine. My file count is high, or here's my workload, or here's what's happening at work, and it's a little bit more routine and a little bit more surface. Professional can get to be a little bit deeper, and I think the more you're around certain people, they will open up more.
Yeah.
And I think it allows, again, same thing. It sets the tone for the entire meeting. And then if you have to have a hard conversation, you've been able to talk on a personal level. You care about people more than just their results at work.
Right.
And I think that's really important for people to know, is that you matter, not just your results as an employee.
Exactly, yeah. It's awesome for building culture.
Yeah.
So if you don't know your people, like, it's hard to care for your people, and that's a really good place to start to understand who are these people that come to work for you or work for the company,
Right.
Whatever company you're running. And once you start to know them more and what their interests are and their family life and all that, you can now start to build a deeper bond with them, right? And they become more than just an employee. They become, somebody that you can care for and actually do, care for more.
Right.
Care more for. Right.
It sounded fine.
Yeah.
But then I think when it comes to the family, it also it gives the kids a chance to talk, because
Yeah.
they won't. Most of the time, kids aren't going to come to you and say, hey, I'm really struggling with whatever at school. When you open up the platform for this, though, they can say, and I think we had one family meeting where one of our kids broke down crying during this and said, I'm really struggling.
Yeah.
And we may have known that, or on some level, we didn't know the depth of it until they were willing to share.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was months in, after we got that first, and it was beautiful to see that there was that vulnerability, kind of at work, which allows us to be able to be better parents, better friends, and in essence be able to help, right? Because if we don't know, we can't help.
Well, I think for us to help, but also for the kids as siblings to maybe be a little bit more sympathetic and empathetic with each other, because they fight. I mean, they're siblings. They live together, and that's what siblings do. But it opens up that vulnerability for them as well amongst each other to say, it's okay. It's okay to not be a rock all the time. Right.
Yeah, and that's so I love both of these, and we implement them. There's definitely a way to go about them, and I think today was more just trying to keep it surface on. These are some things that you can translate to both your business and your personal life. And I think, we talked on the broader scale of like team meetings and family meetings, but it's also both of these. I don't know about Circle of Gratitude. I think Circle of Gratitude is more for a broader group. It's a circle, right? It's not a line with a one-on-one. So
right.
Yeah. So it's got to be a broader group, but the personal professional check-in, or whatever you want to call it, that is a great one-on-one starter as well. Where if you're having a one-on-one with an employee, you can open up like, hey, tell me a little bit about, give me, what's your, personally, boom, professionally, I'm here, whatever. And then you're able to reciprocate that as a leader.
And I think as a leader, it allows you to maybe look at their work a little bit differently if you know a little bit about what's going on in their personal life, because we're not single line individuals. Like everything, as much as you want to leave your baggage at the door or whatever that is, we can't do that.
Right.
We're human and we're complex. And so I think as an employer, it allows you to say, maybe the reason this employee's performance is off is not because they're not working hard enough. Maybe there's something else going on in their life that's distracting them. And then I think as an employee, it also allows you to see your employer or leader in a little bit different light, because I think you oftentimes fear the leader a little bit, and it allows you to see them as a person.
Yeah.
And it changes that dynamic.
That's a great point. And same thing with the kids. They don't have to. They get to see some vulnerability from you as well, and the parents, in the sense of like, hey, we're okay with this, and we're going to give you permission to be okay with this. So we're going to transition to our optimizer segment of the episode, where we kind of discuss some tactics, tips, tricks on how to better optimize your business, your life, your relationships, and so on. And today we talked a little bit about personal professional check-ins, Circle of Gratitude, but want to kind of dial in, how do you optimize any one of these practices? So, for example, if you have a team that's broader than, 5, 10 employees, and the goal of this, if you were to go around the whole room and do a personal professional check-in, you'd be there for, you're going to be taking up 30 minutes of your day. That's not going to be effective. So, if you have a big team, you really want to single out and have people volunteer. First and foremost, hey, who wants to volunteer? We have 2 volunteers today. Anybody want to share? And then you give everybody the opportunity to go ahead and kind of raise their hand and say, hey, I want to share my personal professional check-in, and then give them the opportunity. Make it no longer than 1 to 2 minutes. And then that way, come your second team meeting or whatever the case is, you're giving then somebody else that hasn't had an opportunity to speak up, a chance to raise their hand and also share. And there are some exceptions, right? If somebody on the team had something big happen that week that you're aware of, and they're excited to share, you may want to prompt them. And maybe make it, maybe 3 or 4 people share if there's time allowed. But you want to be able to optimize the time, not have somebody go into a long, lengthy kind of dissertation around their check-in, but keep it really crisp, short, and deep at the same time. So that's my advice. If you start implementing these practices, make sure you put a timeline so that you don't get off track and you're able to have an effective, check-in. So with that said, we are now coming to the end of our episode. Do you want to go ahead and sign us off? This was great. I think this is really helpful. Hopefully, there's so many little things out there that you can implement both on the family front and the business. And these are just two that we'll cover now, but we have others that we'll start to
I think also one thing to mention, because I think a lot of times when people start to implement something new, they make it too complicated.
Yeah,
and
for
they're
sure.
like, oh, we're going to do this, but I feel like we have to prepare for weeks and I have to write this out and I have to explain. Just do it.
Yeah.
Like action is the most important thing. So
I agree.
You might not have it figured out the first time. You might not explain it right, and it's okay.
It's
Every time we do the circle of gratitude, somebody gets called twice or three times,
yeah.
and then
and
you
then
end
everybody's
up
mad.
kind of in
No,
a
I'm just
weird.
kidding.
No, people don't get mad, but then you end up in. It doesn't always
Why
work
is nobody
as a
thankful
circle,
for me?
right? But it's okay. Like you get.
I know. I'm kidding.
You get it. It's.
I don't
okay.
ever get. You always thank me. I'm kidding. I barely get a thank from you.
Awkward.
I barely get a thankful from you. It's late in the day. It's time to wrap up. Let's get this going. Let's
keep talking. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Co-Founders.